UV rays. So today we're gonna talk about redhead's greatest enemy, the sun. So it's summer, and if you're of the same skin type as me, this basically brings on a lot of anxieties about, you know, not getting burned and not getting all wrinkly before your time. And, you know, by this point you already know that just like, you know, hanging out in the sun over the noon in the high summer is not the best idea if you want to stay all youthful and beautiful forever. I mean, look at the Asian countries. In the Asian cultures, people generally avoid sun. Maybe that has something to do with the whole magical Asian thing, you know, the whole looking the same until you're 60 or 70 and then you just become a tiny little Chinese grandma. Adorable! So I thought I would make this little educational video because I feel like most people don't really look into how sunscreen work and how you should use them correctly as deeply as I do. I mean, obviously with me it's mostly need, because I am so pale that I just don't have any natural protection whatsoever. As you know, I chose to move from Czech Republic to Scotland, where, you know, obviously the sunshine intensity is a lot lower and we're a lot more in the north, so the sun kind of lingers quite low on the, you know, above the horizon. It doesn't get as aggressive as in Czech Republic. I really like that about here, but I mean, the UK UV range is still somewhere between 1 and 7, I think, and Scotland in the summer can happily, you know, get to UV 7, which, you know, still means that if you're just frolicking in the sun over the noon, you can still get very happily sunburned. And if you are in Scotland in summer, you know that there's a lot of people of, you know, my color scheme and kind of those like adorable red cheeks, which might be partially from all the drinking and partially from just not being prepared for sun happening ever. So let's start with some basic facts. You probably know that, you know, when the sun shines on planet Earth, it comes with, you know, a lot of types of rays, and when it comes to skincare and dermatology, you generally hear about two types, the UVA rays and the UVB rays. Some people keep mixing up which one does what. There is a very easy aid for that, which is UV aging, UV burning. UVA and UVB have different wavelengths, and as such, there's like different rules that apply to them. For example, UVBs do not get through glass, so you can't get sunburned or tanned over a window, but UVAs happily do. Also, another myth about UV rays is that if it's not sunny, there's just none of them. Sun clouds let through as much as 90% of like the sunny day percentage of UV rays. Now let's talk about some other numbers that are usually mentioned in conjunction with this amazing topic, which is your natural protection time and SPF. So the time of your natural protection kind of comes with what skin type you are. This can also be called phototype. It goes from phototype 1, which is me. This is, you know, pale people with light eyes, usually ginger or blonde haired, who almost never ever get any tan, and if they do get some tan, it's generally that sort of not very attractive reddish tan. That's the only tan I ever can get. Then you get to phototype 2, which is, you know, blonde people who do get tans. Then you get people who are dark haired and dark eyed. If you're phototype 1 like me, you were given the amazing natural protection of 5 to 10 minutes. So if you spend more than 5 to 10 minutes in like normal daylight, that's when your skin starts being like, I think that's been enough. Now let's just wrinkle you up a bit to scare you, you know, just let's get you some ugly wrinkles and, you know, something that looks like in the future will become a horrible life-threatening melanoma. Phototype 2 gets somewhere between 10 and 20 minutes, and then so on, 20 to 30. So now take this basic number of the protection you were given by Mother Nature and multiply it by SPF. Now, if you multiply like my, let's say, okay, if I'm generous, I will say 10 minutes by SPF 30. That gives me 300 minutes. That sounds pretty good, right? But this only applies in like absolutely ideal scenario, which means I used enough of the cream or the product. I am not sweating, which I generally am, to be honest. I'm one of the sweatiest people I know. You might have seen creams and products with SPF greater than 50, but they're not technically lying. But in fact, if you go over 50, the protection level doesn't really go up very much. So generally just stick to the 50, or sometimes they say 50 plus. And that's basically the highest you can go. Like if you invest more into, you know, more expensive, stronger SPF lotion, it is to a certain extent waste of money. Okay, so we talked about what is the ideal scenario for wearing sunscreen, right? As I mentioned, not sweating, putting enough of it on. You should also probably put more than one layer. You should put it on longer than 30 minutes before you actually leave the house. How most people use their SPF products is actually they just almost never ever use enough of it, especially on your face. Like, I mean, you can probably imagine in real life you're not gonna put, you know, like a palmful of product on your face, because that would make you incredibly greasy, and there's just no way you're putting any more makeup over that. So on a, you know, daily wearing, if you're not wearing this to the beach or, you know, to the poolside somewhere in Southern Europe, then there is no way you're gonna do that. So people are not using quite enough, right? So what is enough? Some tips. Either you can think of like a shot worth of cream for the whole body, or the length, like a thick line of cream that goes from your middle finger to the bottom of your palm to each one of like the major areas of your body, which would be, you know, each arm, each leg, you know, front of your torso, back of your torso, and then head and neck. So to put this into some sort of everyday normal person perspective, what would be a good idea to do is to first use a moisturizer that has some SPF in it, then wait a bit for it to sink in, then put on some foundation also with SPF in it. Don't forget, the SPF numbers will never add up, but it's always good to create layers, because that will just strengthen the barrier, and it also makes it more strong in case you know, you get some water on your face. It will just be harder to sort of wash off the physical barrier. Now, not so long ago, I was actually googling how to protect your lips. For most people, lips are just like one of the lightest, you know, most sun sensitive places of, you know, their face, and face is just so often the most sun exposed part of your body, that I was really wondering about this. Plus, I'm not sure if you can see, but I do have, like, just on my lip line, I do have like this line of freckles. Like, I don't, on my face, I don't really get freckles anymore, which is because I do wear SPF pretty much every day to some extent. But the only places where I do get freckles is like the top of my forehead, the sort of just under my eyes and around my lips. And coincidentally, when I read this article about protecting your lips, those were the 3 parts of your face that are apparently mostly left unprotected by most people. So just keep this in mind. What you can do, you don't have to, like, you know, slap gross white sunscreen on your lips or on your eyes. Actually, with your eyes, if you're using something that has physical sunscreen in it, so that means like it has, you know, actual particles that just like sit on your face and reflect the UV rays away from your face, like titanium dioxide or zinc oxide. If you use these can very easily irritate your eyes like crazy. That's like, in the start it won't really, you might not feel it, but what's the worst thing that always happens to me is that by the end of the day, when my face gets a bit greasy or like sweaty, I just kind of, you know, I touch my eyes, I get some of the product, or even just the foundation that does have SPF in it, I get into my eyeballs, I'm in pain, it's horrible, my eye whites get like super pink, and No. So I would recommend, if you have a similar problem, then it's always good to wear glasses. Either normal glasses, which generally are reinforced to block out both kinds of UV rays, or ideally sunglasses. When it comes to your lips, the good thing to do is to put on some lipstick. Yeah, you don't have to feel weird that, you know, in the height of summer you're wearing so much makeup on, because technically the makeup is protecting you from the sunlight. So yeah, you don't have to go for this whole barefaced look. Barefaced! Put on 1 or 2 layers of lipstick. Matte lipstick is a lot better than lip gloss. Lip gloss might actually make things worse because it's shiny and it kind of directs the UV rays to your lips. Now, some dermatologists say that SPF products actually give people a false sense of security when they're exposed to sunlight, which I have to agree with, because when you think about it, you slap on some sunscreen, and just because you don't get burned doesn't mean that your skin isn't accumulating those UVA rays, which in the long run are even worse for you. You should never ever just trust your sunscreen fully. You know, always think of how most people don't use enough and don't use it right, and you're probably one of them. Just put on a hat, put on some sleeves, you know, just try to stay in the shade. You're not safe ever from them. They're everywhere. Just, you know, you can just become nocturnal like my best friend. I mean, she's gonna be young forever because she basically sleeps all day. Yeah, she's possibly a vampire. If you don't want to wear a hat, maybe you can try one of those, you know, Korean style sun-blocking umbrellas. You can actually try just your regular umbrella. The darker it is, the more UV rays it will block. You know, some people will go and just say, yeah, but what about vitamin D? Like, vitamin D deficiency is super bad for you. But you know, the truth is, the paler you are, the less time you actually need to get all that vitamin D absorbed from the sunlight. Don't make any vitamin D jokes. Okay guys, thank you for watching, and don't forget to live your dreams, unless those dreams are to be super tanned if you're a redhead, because that's just not gonna happen. Bye! Stay protected, kids!